are again at our beautiful labyrinth, the place where so many people have found solace and hope and just a place of reflection through these COVID days. And it reminds me of another image of pathways on college campuses. Maybe you remember this, where there would be some pathways that would be made by students between buildings or between the quadrangle and another place, and eventually it would be a grassy path, but by the time it had been tread several times by students, it becomes a pathway that's clear enough that eventually a sidewalk gets made. Pathways are important to us. They guide us, they lead us, they help us know the directions we're supposed to go in. But in these COVID days, something has happened, hasn't it? We are kind of creating the pathways as we tread on new ground and as we find ourselves in new days. And yet, as we continue to move forward in the hope and the faith of our God who guides us through these days, we are making pathways. Pathways that for a future generation of churches and Christians might be a little bit more clear because we have been faithful enough to tread them and to walk them even with an unclear vision of where we're going. Once again, we as a congregation find ourselves looking at a new season of ministry together, especially looking at our fall season of 2020 and imagining what ministry is going to look like, what worship and gathering is going to look like in these COVID days. Remember way back in March, we couldn't even imagine being this far into the fall and having to make these decisions, but here we are. And yet again, we are trotting some new pathways that will become much more clear to us as we live them and as we walk them, just like the labyrinth behind me. So this morning I want to share with you a little bit more about the plan for our fall programming and worship together as a church. You know that I have gathered with you periodically through this time, sharing the wisdom and the discernment and the prayer of our lay leaders, of our ministry teams, of our staff, of health experts and safety experts from around our county and our state and our nation. And out of all that discernment and listening, we've made some critical decisions for our fall ministry and programming that I want to share with you. The first one is worship. Starting on August 30th, we are going to host parking lot worship here at AUMC every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We're going to do that from August 30th all the way through the Sundays of October, and then continue to evaluate, given the COVID numbers and given the experience that people are having and the numbers of folks who are participating, to decide if that's what will continue through the months of November and December. And yet with this decision, it is obvious that we are making a decision not to do in-building worship throughout the fall semester. I know that's hard to hear. I know how frustrating that is. We feel that frustration too, but we just have to continue to live into our values and our wisdom that is coming from so many places about how we keep the majority of our folks safe and well and healthy in any way that we can as a church. But we still need to worship, we still need to connect, and we still need to gather. So every Sunday morning from August 30th throughout October, we'll come to the parking lot. We'll have all kinds of instructions about how we'll park in ways that you can either sit in, on, or around your car, depending on the information we have about COVID at the time. We're going to have live worship outside. We're going to experience worship together by waving and honking and live streaming the service, so that if someone isn't able to join us in the parking lot worship, they can still watch from home starting at 10 a.m. And we'll continue to make a recording of that service so that people can watch the service throughout the week, as they are doing right now with our recorded services. Also, through the month of September, the 4 Sundays of September at 6:30 p.m., we're going to be hosting on the west lawn right behind us a Vesper Service. And some of us are like, what's a Vesper Service? A Vesper Service is a way to end the day with God. It's a time for all generations to come, to spread out a blanket or lawn chairs, to be socially distanced and masked, to sing together, to pray together, to give God thanks for the glory of this day. So that'll be happening every Sunday evening at 6:30 p.m. here at the church. Now you may decide parking lot worship's your thing, or you may decide Vespers is your thing, or you may decide both of them are, or you may decide staying at home and watching a recording is a thing. We've already learned, and a pathway has been formed to remind us that all of that is authentic worship. Another part of our fall plan is the way we'll gather for in-person meetings and gatherings. Right now, through all of the wisdom that we've been gathering, we think that we can be socially distanced, masked, and safe to continue to try to move into the building for small group meetings of 10 or less. This could include our recovery groups. It could include a small group that wants to meet in person to do planning. While it's always our preference, as long as the weather permits, to be doing these kinds of gatherings outdoors, and we have many beautiful grounds to enjoy and set that kind of a meeting up, if you need to meet into the building, we ask that you go to our website. On the drop-down menu where there'll be forms and registrations, you'll see forms that need to be filled out and completed and turned into electronically or by drop-off to Deb at the office so that we can make a reservation for your group to come. That's not only for a group that chooses to use an in-building space as able and permitted, but an outdoor space as well, to make sure that we don't have too many groups using one particular outdoor space of the church. Through those guidelines and through those reservations, you'll learn all the protocols for using the indoor space and outdoor spaces related to safety, health, and welfare. So make sure to look at those resources and know that we are making every effort to keep our building safe, to keep our outdoor grounds safe, to mitigate any kind of concern we have around COVID, but to know that any time right now we're gathering, even when we're masked and socially distanced, we still have a small risk of contracting COVID, and we want to reduce that risk as much as possible. Another piece about our fall planning is that with the concurrence of our church council, our KDD, our Kids Discovery Days preschool, will be opening and plan to open, if everything's going fine, by September after Labor Day. This is the regular season for our KDD. They have taken enormous precautions and done all kinds of work about check-ins and health and safety check-ins and the cleaning of space and the using of pods for learning. So our KDD will be gathering. There will be some special arrangements made if in fact there would be a COVID outbreak or a sickness of a child or a teacher. Again, if we would find any kind of numbers spiking to a place where we are told by government, state, or county officials that we have to shut down, we understand that. That's a part of the pivoting that we're having to do right now as a community of faith or any institution right now in our community. So we will exercise that kind of authority and responsibility if we need to, but we also understand the importance of helping young children to develop through social interactions in a safe and healthy environment, physically, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. Another part of our fall plans is that, of course, our church office remains open. It may not be the building, but Deb, our amazing office manager, continues to answer the phones throughout the day. You can contact any of the staff through email. If in fact there's an arrangement to be made with a pastor to meet one-on-one at the church building, as I have been doing occasionally with some parishioners, we'll just invite you to be masked, to practice hand washing and social distancing. Many of the meetings I'm trying to have right now are just outside on the patio on the east side of the church. It's a wonderful space to have an outdoor meeting. So again, the pathways are being made as we're living right now, and there'll be so much more clarity in the coming months about how we're going to go farther into the future depending on what is happening with COVID. Amazingly, you may be already thinking, and I assure you that the staff is, about Christmas and about Advent and the ways that we gather with our traditions and our rituals and our coming together. I want to tell you, friends, we're already starting to pray about that and think about that and be very in tune with the need to gather personally and also safely. So as soon as we can, as these next few weeks unfold of the fall, we hope to be able to share with you some visions about how that's going to work. But right now it would be a little premature with just all of the unknowns that we have to make a clear path to how Advent and Christmas is going to happen. But here's the biggest news of all. We are going to celebrate a 150th birthday this fall. On Sunday, September 20th, with our parking lot worship and through our Vesper celebrations, we are going to be welcoming, especially Sunday morning, our Bishop Karen Oliveto, who will be preaching live here in the parking lot at our Vada United Methodist Church, as we tell the story of our church, as we celebrate not only the rich history, but also the vital future that God is drawing us into. We're already living that future. Can you imagine how the founders of our Vada United Methodist Church 150 years ago could imagine what the days that we are moving through now? And yet they too worked through a pandemic. They too understood growing pains of living in a culture and in a world around us that's filled with uncertainty. They too remain steadfast and faithful in their generosity and their stewardship and their vision and their sharing of their time and their talents to make sure that a place is here in our Vada that gathers to love Christ, to serve God, to serve neighbor, and to change and transform the world around us. We've got so much to celebrate as a church, and we are in the midst of right now beginning the next 150 years of our Vada United Methodist Church, trotting the new pathways that generations from now may find as clear as a sidewalk on a college campus. We are so grateful for you, for your resilience, for your faithfulness, for your generosity, for your willingness to pivot and innovate so that we can be the church of the 21st century that God has called us to be. We're going to have a great fall. We're going to be doing our ministry, carrying on our mission, reaching out to people in our community and in our congregation in new and innovative ways. I'm so glad to be a pastor with you, and I'm so grateful for our shared ministry together as our Vada United Methodist Church.